Oh man, the Beyonce thing is just like, yeah. I mean, everyone listens to their stuff, and
Yeah, it's like everyone listens to stuff. I mean, we mainly listen to metal, but everyone listens to stuff out of metal. I think that's pretty normal. It's like healthy to listen to other stuff as well. But somehow, Fernanda's the only one in the band that gets picked by listening to anything else than metal for some reason. Like we all do, you know. Like I like indie rock, and Fernanda likes like Beyonce, Amy Winehouse. The other girls listen to like techno, and I listen to country sometimes, and like but no. Fuck you! Listen to Beyonce. That's our, yeah.
I kind of understand a little bit where it comes from. It's just because I think I am more open about it. And I think that is one thing. And I really don't care about it. I think that's the second thing. Like I really use my social media as an extension of my life, and my life is a whole universe, you know? Like metal is the most important part of my life for sure. You know, like I'm a metalhead, but there's way more that I want to share, you know, like I always say, like, if you want to know about music only, about Crypta only, there's our page, Crypta. It's always like there's a lot of stuff there, but like on my social media, I'll talk about metal a lot, I'll talk about Crypta a lot, but I'll also talk about, I don't know, yoga, vegan, and Beyonce happens to be just one of those things. And like, sick. You know, so I think people give more importance to that than myself. You know, like sometimes they will be talking about this while I'm listening to, I don't know, Napalm Death, while they're talking about me listening to Beyonce. So it's just, I think it's just because I'm more open and that I don't care, and that I invite people through my posts to actually be free themselves to do whatever they want and post about whatever they want. So that's why I'm more picked on. But really, everyone listens to stuff outside of metal, and that doesn't make me any less metal. Luana knows I'm a fucking metalhead, man. I know my metal, you know.
It's just funny. It's even like a topic, because it's like, yeah,
exactly.
And so what?
It's
so
okay.
What? Yeah.
People call me a poser. It's fine. I just learned.
I get called posers. It's but
okay.
like. The reason why I don't care is that since like my dad is a metalhead, so I'm listening to metal literally since I was like 6-7 years old. He would do like cassette tapes with like Suicidal Tendencies and Iron Maiden and Doro Passion, whatever. So I was pretty much listening to metal to
your whole life.
My whole life. And then like when I was a teenager, my life was going to concerts, you know, like, and after that, my life was literally working for metal. I had a TV show on metal. I had a radio show on metal where I would invite bands and interview bands and everything. Before that, I was doing concert reviews, concert photography. I was interviewing bands for magazines and websites. So like that's why like when people call me a poser, I'm like, this person probably doesn't know where I come from and what I've done in metal, you know, like, 'cause like in Brazil, like I was doing stuff for metal, like I was interviewing bands when I was like 18-20 years old, you know, like I was out there and breathing metal. That's it. So that's why I don't care. You can talk, I like Beyonce, but I know my metal. I know my history in metal, and that's what matters, I think. Yeah.
You know, and also what you guys think about yourselves is the most important. What's actually really funny is if someone's going to say the poser, they're probably talking about themselves. You know, it's always like projecting.
I mean, one thing I remember, one thing I do a lot is I remember. So I was watching a certain band, not naming any bands and any names. I was watching a certain band, and this certain person that I know was watching with me, and he was just like, "Oh, that guy is a poser." And then I was like, huh, interesting.
Was it Suicide Sounds?
And then I was just like, oh, interesting comment. And then I was just like, did you see that he's wearing like that band's t-shirt that I like so much? And the guy was the one that called him a poser was like, which band is that? I was like, exactly.
You don't even know your metal.
You don't fucking know,
My goodness, people forget there's so many fucking bands and styles of heavy shit. It's impossible to keep up with it.
Yeah.
Literally, it's like impossible.
I'm daily trying to keep up with the bands. Fernanda knows that all I do in the van is nerd out on Spotify and Metal archives to get to know as much as possible. And still, I'm finding underground death metal bands I never heard about.
There's always bands coming out. Even like you'll find bands from the era that you like that you just didn't find.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I find like old school bands that I never heard of, and I'm like, what the fuck? How did this like? How did I not see this before? Because I'm always, I feel like I do it for a hobby, searching bands. I just find it interesting, and still finding stuff that you don't know, like from the 90s. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that's pretty
crazy.
It's pretty cool. I will say that it's like an endless task to know all the bands. It's an endless hobby, but at the same time, like some people are like, oh, you don't know. I don't know, fucking make a band name Habilon.
Yeah, we
or like, okay. Well, I mean, I listen to some pretty underground stuff, like, I don't know, fucking 100 listeners on Spotify, but, maybe Habilon has 10 listeners. I never heard of them yet. Maybe someday.
And sometimes, like, there's the new bands and everything, and sometimes you end up revisiting albums from your favorite bands, like old school bands that you didn't care before. And that is something that reminded me, like, because like when I was a teenager and young adult, it was only metal for me. So I kind of know where it comes from in a way, because I was like, yeah, I don't listen to that band because of this and this and that.
We've all been there.
We've all been there. So that's why I'm like, okay, eventually they'll understand and it's fine. And then also there were albums that we were like, I remember we were like, we don't like this album. Then a decade later it was like, okay, maybe I'll revisit this album. It's a fucking awesome album, like, so that's the cool thing about metal. I think like it's never ending. There's always new bands or old albums or from old bands and new albums from old bands, and so it's never ending and
it is never ending.
And that's a cool thing.